Hello, my name is Cynthia and welcome to my Flosstube channel. I have a lot of different projects, patriotic primitive pieces and other cross-stitch pieces that I've been working on during the month of May so far, including a finish. And thank you for joining me. If you are new, welcome. And if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. I have been stitching quite a bit throughout Stitch Mania, not as I first intended, but fun nonetheless. And I wanted to share some of the patriotic pieces that I've been able to complete. I had shared these stars from a Chestnut Junction Etsy pattern that I intended to do, and my friend Kim Lehman, Barbara's daughter, was also making these, so she spurred me on to get it done. The pattern is made out of muslin that you paint, and then you kind of cinch it together and put a button on top. This is actually a pin from my great-grandmother's jewelry chest that I always wanted to do something with, so I was happy to find that purpose for it. I also was inspired by Kim because the pattern calls for painted muslin, but Kim used fabrics in her collection. This one's a little off-center, but that's okay, it's primitive. And so I used my son's old jeans and then some red check and stars, and they just make a really fun bowl filler for some cross-stitch kind of accompaniments, since they have a handmade quality, and they were super simple to make. The turns on the sewing machine were a little more time intensive than I expected, but not bad. It wasn't bad at all. And this top one, like I said, has no stuffing, whereas the bottom piece does have some fiberfill, and they turned out really cute. I was really happy with those. I keep them in this galvanized trough behind me here, and that has some fill in it, and then I have some cross-stitch pieces that will accompany it. They aren't quite finished. I also, in the last couple hours, really just finished this sheep that is cute. I'm not sure he's my favorite. I like my pigs a little better, but he was fun. And I need to attach his little wool blanket, and I need to put one more button on there. I ran out of buttons downstairs and I didn't want to come up. So he has a little banner that in the pattern that I thought I brought up here, but I don't see it right now. It said sheep, and I don't always like things that are obvious like that, like pig, cow, eat, sheep. So I put free for patriotic inspiration, and he has a little jingle bell. I'm gonna tighten that up just a little bit. That was off of another little critter, but he turned out pretty fun. His legs are twigs, and I was gonna make one for my mom as well. So pretty cheap pattern, just $2, and the materials I used tea toweling and stained it, and then copied the pattern's instruction. This was some more of the tea toweling, and then this red felt I had in my stash from Hobby Lobby. So there's a little sheep guy. His face is painted and his little ear, and he doesn't have a tail, which kind of made me pause. I almost want to add something, but then I'm afraid it would look weird. So here he is, little patriotic sheep. And then I also have embroidered some pillows. This is my second attempt. The first one I was too embarrassed to show you because it ended up really wonky. I thought I was writing very straight, and I did not. But this one turned out. This one I did pretty well. This was just some scraps from that project with the sheep and with the stars. And so it has the check on the back, and then USA with some little like firecracker crosses. Just simple backstitch. I'm sure that has a running stitch name in embroidery. I don't do a lot of embroidery, so I don't know what to call it, but this was kind of a cheat to get something in the bowl a little quicker than the cross stitches. This took me all of maybe 30 minutes. So I thought it turned out cute though, just a little filler bowl. So, and I didn't have a pattern for that, I just made it up, but it's really simple. You can do the same. And then the last thing I wanted to show you in my patriotic pieces so far, I have a few more I'll show you that I'm still going to be working on throughout the month of May. But as far as finishes go, I was able to finish the Pineberry Lane, Hurrah. I think that's the name of it, yeah, Hurrah for the Red, White, and Blue. And I've shown this on Instagram, so a lot of you have already seen it, but this red gate came from Zulily. I found it for about $10, I think, and I was talking with some friends about Zulily. It used to be really hard to get things shipped there. They used to take like a month or 6 or 8 weeks, but now their shipping has gotten better, and some of their things have a little rocket by it, which means that it'll ship much quicker. So if you're not familiar with Zulily, Zulilly, or Ly, just one L at the end. It is something you can Google, but it's a boutique online that offers different things. This is no longer there, or I would link it, but I bet it'll come back. It came in larger sizes in white, and this was perfect, I thought, for patriotic pieces. Initially, I wasn't going to use these clips because I thought I would just mount it in some other way, but it turned out so cute when I just clipped it up after I finished it that I decided to use them. And so this is just sewn together with another piece of fabric. I've never done a finish like this before. I guess it's just called a, I don't know, what is it called, a flat finish? But it has some fringe around the edging here, and then I folded this piece up because it was too long, and I kind of liked it because it almost looks like she has something to stand on now, like a little stage. So that's the backing, and it does show from the back where I have it placed on my kitchen kind of island, so I wanted it to be finished on the back, and that's just some extra fabric. And I didn't turn it. I didn't like stitch around and turn it like it would a pillow. I just top stitched it. So that's some of the fun parts of primitive stitching. You don't have to take as much time with the corners and things like that. I just top stitched it with a cream colored thread. So first time doing that kind of finish, and I thought it was a lot of fun. Her dress is really pretty with the white stitches, and then her crown, I don't know if you can see that, probably not. It has a little bit of sparkle, and so it was a lot of fun to stitch and really quick. You can get these online as a PDF download, and I highly recommend the Pineberry designs. They're all really cute and pretty quick stitches. There's a few mistakes in here. I kind of eyeballed some of the firecrackers. I didn't put them exactly where they had them in the pattern, but it didn't end up mattering, which is another fun part about primitive stitching. So really happy with her. Glad she's done. Oh, and that bow, I think I got that at Walmart, that ribbon, and just kind of tied it at the top. It kind of fell over earlier, so I need to kind of zhuzh it a little bit, but it's cute. So there's Pineberry Hurrah, and then I'll segue to showing you some of the things that I've been working on throughout Maynia. I'm losing my light, so sorry if there's shadows, but I wanted to show some of the things I've been stitching on this month. They weren't what I planned. Things had just kind of come up that I needed some solid stitching for. For instance, this tomato I showed in my stash dive, and I've wanted to stitch for over a year since I started at last Maynia, the Not Forgotten Farm. I thought I was going to archive this for a while and just pull it up maybe next year, but it was calling to me, so I needed something for virtual stitching with friends that was kind of mindless. And as you can see, this tomato, which has over 2,000 stitches, was the perfect piece. It has a little lady that's going to stand beside it, and I'm ready to start her because I'm getting tired of the tomato. But that was some really good stitching for the purpose that I needed, so I pulled that out. I also got to looking at my potting shed piece that I said I was going to put up and not start, and I had worked so hard to get all the threads together. There's some really pretty threads in here, a lot of specialty overdyes, and I had overdyed some of the overdyes that came. Let's see if you can see them better back here. They came to neon, if you recall from a couple of videos ago, and so I dipped them in some, or I painted them with some coffee and darker colors. And so I wanted to see how they turned out, and I wanted to return this good stash of Gentle Arts, which we all know is harder to come by. I wanted to return it back to my stash for other projects, and this is a small project. So on Mother's Day I decided I want to stitch what I want, and I pulled out the potting shed, the clay pots there, are pretty small, and then her little skirt, she's actually smaller than I expected. This is on 32 count. I went ahead and joined the Victorian Motto Sampler Club Linen of the Month. I don't know what this is called. It didn't have a name. It was supposedly the April linen, because I joined a little late and she went ahead and sent it to me as a very kind gesture. So, I mean, I paid for it, but she went ahead and let me start, even though I was in the middle of the month. So that fabric came along. I was missing the fabric because I was going to start Patriotic Poppies. And so when this fabric came along, I thought that's perfect. I'll go ahead and start it. So she shouldn't take too long. She has some bee skeps and a little sheep on the other side of her. And like I said, I really wanted to delve into these pretty threads, especially that chili pepper orange. I need to use that for some of my other pieces coming up. So she will get work done hopefully and finish this month. And then a couple of these projects, after I finished Miss Baxter's, which I might link in a card to reference, the last sampler really took it out of me as far as my stitching mojo. I was kind of worn out, and so when I looked at my focus piece, All Creatures Great and Small, I had a really large error right in the beginning of the stitching, and it really just put me in kind of a funk. And I thought, well, let's just pull out What's Calling to You, and we'll get back to All Creatures Great and Small when you've kind of calmed down a little bit. So this one came to mind. It's small. It's something that frustrated me last year during Maynia. A couple of these projects that I'm going to show you, well, I'm not going to show you all of them. I've pulled out a few more. The tomato one is one. Projects that just didn't turn out like I expected. Maybe they were way bigger than I thought they were, or maybe the fabric was wrong. This one I put on a piece that it was not going to fit, and I had stitched all of the border around, which is just a couple stitch, you know, every other stitch kind of border, but still it was frustrating, especially as a newer stitcher, to have these roadblocks. But as I've stitched for almost 2 years now, and I think if you're a seasoned stitcher, you would agree, there's always roadblocks. There's different things that come up. The fabric doesn't work out like you hoped. The design doesn't fit correctly. It's just not the right colors. So part of really having finishes, I think, is either just scrapping it when you know it's not working, or persevering and seeing it through. So I scrapped that original Lottie Dot and I started it over. I thought I can just redeem some of these pieces that I felt like were really going to be fun, and then they didn't work out. So my fabric was nowhere near big enough. I had a scrap about this wide, and now I have a scrap of this Monaco. And I'm sorry about my light, y'all. It's really getting dark out. But I put the overhead light on and it was way too shadowy. So I'll insert a picture here of some of these close-ups so you can see this Verdigris color. It's really pretty. It's a teal. And then Miss Baxter's dress is going to be in a gold. And I think I'll wait and see. I explained earlier that those dots on her dress are not stitched. They're actually just the fabric showing through in a whole pattern. So if I don't like the look of it, I might stitch those in white. And I think I'll probably have that to do. So this is about 90 stitches, maybe 100 by 60, so not big, but I'm excited to get back to her and see her finished. The other one I started, I did say I would start if I finished my goals, and I started it anyway. The Stars and Stripes Forever piece I've admired from Priscilla and Chelsea, and also from Helen D, I think, finished this one, and it's just such a classic, I think, kind of Americana pattern. The colors in it are much darker, which I like. I did change them. I don't know if I'm using any of the called for. But, sorry, there's a needle. I didn't want to poke it. This is, I think, Country Redwood is this S. And then Weeks Dye Works Crimson, the DMC Blue, and a DMC Gold, and Ecru. So that is not going to be terribly hard. I don't think I've already gotten to that first star, and I have about 4 more stars on the bottom, and it's only about 3 inches high, so it's pretty skinny, but it's really cute. So wanted to get to that. This is a piece of oh, I had repurposed this from an old start that didn't work out. It's just some Hobby Lobby even weave. I had a yard of it, So I cut this piece, and I'll show you what I'm doing with the other 2/3 of it. And I have a board all ready to finish that on, probably on my mantle, so I wanted to get that done before Memorial Day, if at all possible. And I will go ahead and show you what I did on Barbara Anna. My All Creatures Great and Small. It's on 40 count, so it gives me a little bit of trouble. But the main thing I did was have a horrible counting error. When I was moving down the page, you can see there's a page break right there by the tree. And for whatever reason, I didn't place this tree correctly onto the border. It was correct from the top of the grass above it, but it's 4 stitches over. So I'm not able to put an entire motif here. It won't fit. I'm not able to put an acorn here or something else over on that side. So I just crossed off the motifs that wouldn't fit. And I might come up with my own, or I might move the acorn that was supposed to be below that bird. I might move that to the other side. And I very carefully counted. I had to stitch these letters 3 times, which was super frustrating. But I very carefully counted all the way from over here that I was 39 stitches over before I started the text where it says great and small. And I did get back on track. I finished the great, and I'm moving up. I think with this kind of piece and with a lot of the samplers that are so big, it's so important to have benchmarks as you go along, that if you got off too far and an entire row won't fit, that would just be so devastating. So I've been able to squish things back and forth, but up and down I don't think I could on this piece. So I'm using this border. Some people aren't stitching this. I've seen a couple that are leaving it off. I'm using those leaves as real helpful benchmarks to say, okay, count down how many leaves, because you can't count down like 300 or 200 stitches very easily, but you can count those leaves and see that you're on the right track. So I hope that I continue to stay on track, and I do want to fill in that section, and hopefully I've been inspired to move over to the house. I saw Christy from Crosshatch Quilts. That's what she has done, is this middle house and this emblem. So I might try to get over there and just fill in more of that section to inspire myself to keep going, because it's so pretty. And I love the colors. I'm using the anchor floss that's called for, and that's really fun to stitch with, because I do feel like it's more the tones are just different with anchor, in my opinion. They seem to be a little bit more dusty, or they seem to have more, Amy Gable Stitcher had said that she feels like they're more matte. They're not quite as shiny, and I would agree. They're really cool, I think, for this piece. I did change the barn. That's my Anchor 20, which is a medium burgundy, instead of the pink color. So a lot of people have done that. I'm planning to get back to it. I've kind of gotten over my bad crummy mood about it, and I'm excited to keep going. So that's what I worked on so far. I finished the Pineberry Lane piece in probably about 4 days, and that was not stitching on it all the time. I probably could have done it in a couple days if I'd focused more, but it was a real quick stitch, and then I just kind of had to get over myself to get back to All Creatures. So let me show you some pieces that I've picked up this month, none of which I had to pay for. I had some Stitchy Kindness, and I swapped a pattern with a friend and was able to pick that up this week as things with the quarantine are kind of easing up. We actually just left it at my church and I went and got it. So I was able to get a pattern that I didn't pay for. I just swapped, and then I won a giveaway. So let me show you the haul pieces I have, and then we'll be finished. Before I show you the cross stitch patterns that I was gifted this month, or that I swapped, I wanted to give you kind of a PSA on some felt that I found at Hobby Lobby. This is half a yard of wool blend. It's not 100% wool felt, but the wool felt I had is so thick and hard to work with anyway. I think I'll prefer this. It has a really, I don't know if you can see the texture, it's really kind of heathered. And this will be perfect for some fall appliques, that orange. And then I got a mustard colored as well. They had quite a few bolts of them, so you might check. Our Hobby Lobby is open again, and I went first thing in the morning with a mask and gloves, and picked up some things that I'd been needing, and so this was something I just couldn't pass up because it was $2.50 for the piece I got. It was $5 a yard. So if you like wool applique or for finishing on cross stitch, this is great as well. I highly suggest you look for that. Ask your fabric counter at Hobby Lobby if you have access. And the other thing I wanted to share, our Daiso also stayed open the whole time. I didn't realize it's a little, maybe 30 minutes from my house, and it's a Japanese dollar store, D-A-I-S-O. A lot of y'all have that in California and West Coast and even in Europe. And this was a little grid I found. I just picked this up this afternoon, and it's $1.50. And I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to use it. I know I can hang some little pillows from the bottom. I might use a bigger backing on the top there and use it in my craft room. They show it with like scissors and flashlights as like a utilitarian piece, but I thought it was cute. And for $1.50, I thought that was a fun find, but it's nice to keep an open mind about how to finish cross stitch. And then the other thing that I got there, these are newer. I used to have some smaller flat magnets, but this is a pack of 25 magnets for $1.50. So if you have a Daiso and you've never stopped by it, or if you're, you know, in the proximity of one and don't know what it is, it's a really great store for cross stitch stuff and for finishing. So, and I also picked up a few of their zipper bags. I use these, I use these for all of my projects just about, except for the ones that have a fabric bag. So, and even I'm using these inside of my fabric bag because my fabric bags make me a little nervous that they're not waterproof, and I have cats with hairballs and, you know, all that kids life. But let me show you the patterns I picked up. I was super excited, and then gifted with a really sweet share as well. My friend that lives near my church told me back in, I think it was December, when I had said I finished my Christmas rules, that I wanted to start the Halloween rules. And she said, I can swap with you. I have the Halloween. And so things, you know, happened. The world kind of fell apart. We didn't get to be together. And so I finally gave her a call and said, can you just drop it by the church? I was there helping my husband with a Wednesday night online prayer meeting, and so she dropped it by. I didn't get to meet her in person, but I did get to swap and give her my Christmas rules, and she gave me her Halloween. And she also popped in this pretty pattern by, is it Tralala? Ooh, it's really getting windy outside, like a storm. I better hurry. This pattern is called Liberty, and I think it's super cute. I may actually do it as 2 pieces because I really like that girl, and I might make her just a pillow by herself. But thank you so much, Trinka. That was so thoughtful of you. I was not expecting that. And so there's one pattern that I was able to procure without any budget going out. And then this one too, thanks to Teresa of Kitten Stitcher. She had shared that the Primitive quilt magazine, let's see, I don't remember what it's called. The promo is already over, but these patterns are PDFs, and they have a ton of really neat, I think it's called Primitive Quilt Primitive Projects. I've heard Jen Ragon and Teresa talk about this several times. It's a really cool magazine, primarily a lot of quilting and applique stuff, but this is a punch needle. And on Mother's Day, they offered a code. I follow them anyway on my email, so I already had it there, but it was by Lori Brecklin of Not Forgotten Farm, and it was free. So I was able to download that as a sweet Mother's Day thank you from this magazine. I intend to ask for a subscription for my birthday or Christmas this year, so I will be giving them more patronage, but I was really happy to have that, and I'm going to be kitting that up in the next little bit. So, and it uses 6 strands, so I do kind of like not having a thread in my needle as much, just go zoom right through a whole thing of DMC, and it's all DMC. So that was fun. I encourage you to check out that Primitive Projects. I'll try to link it below if you've not heard of them before. And then the other thing that I picked up or printed out I think that's all. Other than these little snowflower diaries I wanted to show you because I'm going to be starting these in June. Not anytime soon, but if you liked them, they're kind of patriotic still. This one says summer, and it's a beach theme. There's a little fish on the end of that bird's hook. And the little girl I thought was just sweet with the bunting. So that's one for you to look up. There's the original stitching there by Snow. I am saying that, aren't I? Yes, Snowflower Diaries. And then she also did this cute little witch. I did the Spring Witch, if you recall, a couple videos back. And this one is the summer with the strawberry. And I have that piece of La-Di-Da Marion Librarian fabric to use for this one. So these will be happening in a couple weeks, but I'm going to continue to work on All Creatures Great and Small. I'm going to continue to work on my summer ABCs with my flag conversion and any other little pillows and patriotic pieces I can work on. And then I'll probably start more on summer, so, and more on ornaments that I'll share with you next time we visit. But thank you for coming by and seeing what I'm up to. Thank you for your kind comments and your support and encouragement. I always am just so blessed by your kind words and friendship. I've enjoyed stitching with a lot of y'all on virtual stitching groups, and I've been so grateful for your friendship throughout this difficult time we find ourselves. And as I say at the end of all my videos, the book of Psalm chapter 90 verse 17 says, "May the favor of the Lord our God be upon us and establish the work of our hands." Have a great rest of May.